Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. It's episode 20, which is a milestone of sorts, definitely. And with me today, I have the core crew. I have Rob.
Hello.
And I have Richard.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to be back. You alright?
Yeah, not bad. You? How's everybody feeling? We're on a Sunday morning record, so a little bit later than usual here, but it's a nice day out and stuff. And how's everybody feeling as we approach the light at the end of the tunnel in regards to the pandemic? Hopefully.
I'm feeling like I might go out for a run today because, as you say, weather is beautiful. Good chance to get out, feel the sun, feel alive.
I'm feeling we need to do a psychological evaluation of Richard as he wants to go running for fun.
Hey, wait, you're not in your 30s. You're not in your 30s yet, Rob. When you hit your 30s, there's this thing that happens with, like, I know about 50 to 60% of all the guys I know. You suddenly start running. That's kind of what people do. And what usually happens is, and Richard can attest to this, is you go too fast and you do it too hard and you injure yourself and then you can't run again for 6 months. But you can say, I've got an injury from running because I'm trying to be fit. And that is the thing men in their 30s do. And
That's
in Richard's
true.
case,
Happened to me. Shattered my shins. Got stress fractures throughout both of my shins from too much running, and then gave up for a while.
I've always maintained
I
exercise is bad for you. No one listens.
I know so many guys that have done that. It's the funniest. It is the funniest. And like Rob here, I believe in the similar situation of, I'd just rather sit in my comfy chair and play video games. But that's just me. But no, I'm thinking about going for a walk. I wouldn't say run, but I might get some fresh air this afternoon before I do the edit for this and stuff like that. That'll just be a nice time out.
Conversely, I'm considering having a nap. So, you know.
Sounds good too. Honestly, that does sound good too. I didn't get a great night's sleep. So that's like the coin tossed right now. Walk to keep myself awake and energized, or nap. I do like the sound of both of those. There is a 50-50 chance for either, I think.
Yeah, you know which one I'm going to go for.
So, before we get into all the video game news and stuff we've got to talk about, we've also got a Gamepass Club, a game Falconeer to get into today as well, and talk about some of the games we've been playing. I just wanted to touch base. The big thing in pop culture right now is the finale of Marvel's WandaVision, their first TV show on Disney+. We have all finished it. This will be no spoilers. We're not talking about that. But I just wanted to say straight away, my mind has been blown by Disney and Marvel once again, because obviously, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they did this thing where they established movies to create characters so that they could come together. And what they've done here is just go, no, we're going to do it with TV shows now. And it makes the most sense and is absolute genius how they've handled this. And you can 100% see how they are now going to build to a new Avengers. And I am very, very excited to see what they do next. And obviously, we've only got a couple of weeks. And we've got Falcon Winter Soldier, which is the one I've always been the most excited about anyway. What did you guys feel about the finale of WandaVision and stuff? And did you enjoy it? And did you enjoy the whole thing? And Arthur the Cat's joined us, Podcast Cat has joined us to give us his interpretation as well.
He thought it was a pretty new idea.
Oh. I enjoyed one, but yeah, I can start to see where Ben's coming from now. Must get old hearing that all day at work.
Yeah.
He loves it, really.
He's a machine for him. He's a machine for them. Well, I love how everybody will just go, like they've been struck in the heart by it.
No, I'm just stood there grinning.
Back to WandaVision.
What
did you guys think?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really
enjoyed
good.
it. Tell you what's interesting. My wife loves Marvel stuff. We always watch it together, go to the cinema for the latest movies, whatever. She did not like WandaVision. I think it's just too weird for her. It's too quirky. And for us, that's probably a good thing, because it's just a different angle, a fresh way to look at the Marvel universe, new ideas. I really enjoyed it for that. But for Sarah, not so much. So whether it's not got as wide an appeal, don't know.
But what it was for me, and I wonder about Rob, and I will get to you, Rob. I know I'll let you talk about this as well, mate. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. Sorry, mate. I just wanted to say, we come from a comic book perspective, and You know, we read a lot of comics and Marvel comics. This felt like the closest adaptation of a comic you could get. You know, that weekly installment that's trying something different. The best kind of comics that bring the action but bring the feels. Now, in this finale, without any spoilers, it degenerated somewhat in my mind to, you know, a fairly conventional superhero finale. But then once that halfway through kind of petered out and we got the emotional hit, I was in bloody tears, mate. I was literally like welling up. Me and the wife were like sat there crying with that particular scene in the finale. And it's just so well handled and so well done. And they're such good actors. You know, you're acting through that makeup in the case of Paul Bettany. And it's incredible how well they do. And I was absolutely blown away by the kind of the quality of it and where it leaves things for Doctor Strange 2. So I'm pumped to see how they're now using TV to do these origins, to give us these backgrounds and to get us into a new era. Bob?
I think what frustrated me most was the audience making wild conspiracy theories about who we're going to see and what's going to happen, and then them getting butthurt when that didn't happen. You know, when the director before a finale has to come out and go, okay, guys, temper your expectations, please. That's a concern, because it's clearly not going to have the wild connections that people have made. It's a very nice self-contained storyline. It follows itself up nicely, it wraps most threads off, and the threads that it leaves are meant to be picked up later on. You know, they're intentional threads that are left going. It's good. I really enjoyed it.
I think it's a tricky proposition for Disney, because obviously they know a lot of their cinematic fan base are going to watch it, but not everyone. So people need to be able to still go to see the films that are going to come out, that are going to connect and understand what's going on. You can't be expected to also watch the TV show, because you're already expected to have watched the 20 odd previous films. So it's you know, and that just speaks to how well they've done it, how the biggest hits in the world, Infinity War and Endgame, considering that the only way you can really connect with them is if you do have that history of the 20 previous films. And it works, the biggest box offices of all time. So you know, they've done an incredible job. And the fact that they found a way to do this in COVID and you know, and keep things moving. You know, we're obviously still waiting on our little epilogue, which is the Black Widow movie. But going forward into the new phase, I'm really excited to see what comes next with this new form of storytelling. And the fact that they spent, I think I read 160 million approximately on Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is just 6 episodes of TV. That's insane money for a TV show. So that's going to bring the boom. I think. I can't wait to see that. I think I'm so hyped for that.
I think that's going to be more action-packed. WandaVision didn't have lots of action. It had tense set pieces that escalated as time went on. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be the opposite. I think that's going to have more fights and more action to it, because they're more of a fighty pair as opposed to Wanda and Vision, who are the lovers, the couple. That's always been the focus of their storylines, is how they make a couple work between a mutant in the comics and an android, you know, created by Hank Pym. So it's good how I reckon they're going to theme the different ones to hit different notes.
Yeah, and the action wasn't the strong suit of WandaVision, without a doubt. When there was action, that I always felt like it was the most poorly directed part of the entire thing, and just felt very sort of lacking in creativity. You know, coloured things going at coloured things. We've seen it all before.
Every action sequence ever in Marvel, though, coloured things. But I think coloured things.
Not when it's good. I mean, for me, I always prefer street level. So when you see Captain America fighting Bucky, you know, when you watch the Winter Soldier movies, when it's grounded, well-directed action, it's way more interesting than just energy shit flying everywhere. But some people really enjoy that too. But, you know, it's not as good.
There wasn't a lot.
It's fun too. But
Hadouken arms, was there? It was just that a lot.
Yeah, a lot of just stuff. But no, I'm pumped to see what comes next. But anyway, I thought we should just, you know, we are a game podcast. We used to do a lot more of this, talking about cross-media stuff in the previous days, didn't we, Richard? But it's nice to bring a little bit back occasionally. Shall we get into the news?
I think we shall.
So talk about cross-media. Actually, that kind of connects up nicely here. One of the kind of game announcements that came out of nowhere this week, I don't think anybody had heard about this on the docket, is that we've got a new Aliens game coming, Aliens Fireteam, and it's due this summer. And it looks like it's going to be a co-op-based sort of horde mode, think like Gears of War and Fireteam and Left 4 Dead. But, you know, instead of zombies or, you know, the Covenant, you're going to be dealing with Xenos, lots of Xenomorphs, 10 different types or 11 different types of Xenomorph that you're going to be fighting with different loadouts and classes for your Space Marines, your Colonial Marines and stuff. And hopefully this is going to wash away the taste of Colonial Marines, which was the Gearbox disaster that came out in the previous generation. Sorry, 2 generations ago now of consoles on the 360 PS3 era. But yeah, I mean, I'm an Aliens fan. You guys?
It's just reminded me I've still got Isolation on my shame list still to play.
Never played any of it, or you just never finished?
A bit of it. I played a
haven't
bit of it
either.
twice. And it's the first hour I've done a couple of times. I haven't seen an alien in it yet, so not far in.
You got further than I did.
I mean, that's the question, right? That's the debate people have around Aliens, isn't it? It's that isn't Alien about horror and tenseness, and it's not about being swarmed with Xenos. So they're the 2 distinct camps, isn't it? It's the Ridley Scott Alien or the James Cameron Aliens, right? And I like both, but Isolation is the best example, probably never to be better, never to have a better example of the Ridley Scott Alien. That terrifying presence, that's scary, and even when it's not there, and it's a really, really, really good game if you can get through it, because my God, is it terrifying. Compare it to Jim Cameron's fantastic, Aliens, which is the war movie, and the strength of Aliens, which is why this might be a tricky bit, is that the whole kind of point of that movie is that, even with all of the technology and the military might and the strategy, we're nothing. They're just nothing compared to this species of bugs that just destroy everyone. They lose, right, in Aliens. Ripley survives, but for all intents and purposes, the Marines are wiped out, right? So they don't win. So to make a game about winning against the Xeno horde, I'm not sure what tenseness that can bring. So we'll see. I'm really excited.
I've got a couple of points here. Firstly, you're forgetting about then the next sequence of films, the Alien versus Predator movies, which is much more high speed.
I'm not forgetting, just trying to ignore terrible films.
Not forgetting,
but
trying
films.
I quite enjoy the first one. The second one I agree is a bit naff, but the first one I do quite enjoy because it's just a brainless action flick. Anyway, that is another discussion.
You must have been about 10 when that came out, and anything would have been good.
It's probably right.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong. My second point is there's nothing to say over the course of this game, because we know so little about it, that we're meant to win.
But you're gonna survive. At least it's gonna be survival. It's gonna be a case of the Marines will get out of the levels,
but you have no idea how much your character will survive. I look at Halo Reach, for example. At the end of that, the protagonist you play as dies.
Spoilers.
We've already thrown spoilers for Aliens, which I have not seen. Thanks, Ben.
What?
I don't think I spoiled Aliens. But
you did completely. Everyone dies except Ripley.
So Marines dies.
They don't know.
Not
everyone does though.
Not everyone. I said nearly everyone.
Nearly.
There are some people that don't die, but then in Alien 3 they get written out as dead because they couldn't get the cast members back.
A lot of people die, but you would have expected that, so you can still enjoy the film.
We don't know. Considering this is basically Left 4 Dead Alien Mod Edition, which I'm significantly more excited about than Back 4 Blood. It's something that we don't know the format of the story that we're going to be confronted with. Yeah, it could be us slaughtering xenomorphs. Or it could be us doing.
We have a couple of bits of information here. Aliens Fireteam is set 23 years after the original Alien trilogy. Okay. Interesting timeline if you think about where that is. Richard, as someone who's familiar with the Alien series, you play as Colonial Marine on the USS Endeavour, which sounds a lot like a Star Trek ship, but instead of something from Alien.
Going?
But there you go. Which was recently tasked with answering a distress call from the outer colonies. There are four campaigns. You can play with 2 friends or AI teammates. Interesting. That, to be honest, to me sounds more like World War Z. So the structure of the World War Z game is these self-contained campaigns with different sort of characters in each. So therefore, you could actually have different types of story beats to hit there, which would be kind of interesting if they do some contextual narrative work. I do hope there is something. It's not just a different level with different aliens that you shoot. I do hope they do something towards the lore. I mean, it's interesting to me you touched on the AVP movies. Obviously, AVP originally was a comic that inspired movies, but prior to the movie, there were actually probably the best Alien games, which was the original PC Aliens vs Predator and Aliens vs Predator 2, which are fantastic asymmetrical multiplayer experiences, as well as very good single-player campaigns in which you get to play as all of the different races, as aliens, predators, and the Marines. And I'll never forget in AVP 2, when you first play as a xenomorph, you start as a facehugger, as a chest burster inside a person which you have to like bite your way through their rib cage and explode out, and then you're super vulnerable, so you have to just like scuttle around until you can evolve into an alien proper and not get killed by it. People can literally just stamp on you, so you're just like running around like trying to avoid the Marines and stuff and find somewhere to evolve. It's an absolutely amazing start to that campaign. I'll never forget that. I played that when I was about 14. I was like, yes, I'm eating my way out of a chest. This is the dream. So it was
14,
like,
already obsessed with chests.
About the right age. About the right age for that, yeah. So they've got lots of different xenomorphs, 5 different character classes, you know, developed by Cold Iron Studios, known for, you know, the MMO City of Heroes, Star Trek Online. They did work on that as well. Not exactly a developer I would associate with, you know, shooter pedigree, but they've been around a little while. So I'm, you know, we'll be curious to see where this comes out. It's been obviously done with the Fox kind of game studio, but you got to remember now this is all Disney. So it's kind of like I don't know really where any of that sits and what kind of help they're getting, but I'll check it out. I mean, I like World War Z. I think World War Z is a great scrappy kind of B tier game that was far better than anybody expected it to be. So fingers crossed for a kind of similar experience here with this new Aliens game. So yeah, I think that's everything we have right now, but we should be playing it very soon. Looking forward to it.
Do we have anything closer than summer 2021? Is it just
no?
Okay.
That's sort of what's that going to be like? Anywhere from like May to September.
Yeah,
I guess usually that's how
That'll
they
be
kind of
good.
treat it. So
We'll
yeah,
have
I'm
to get
up
a
for
bit
that.
of coverage on the channel if we can.
Absolutely. So in other completely unrelated news, I can't really think of a segue for this, so I'm just going to drive into another news story here. EA has delayed the new Need for Speed game, which was being developed by Criterion, because Criterion are being shifted to support development on Battlefield 6. Because it's been a while since we had a Battlefield/Battlefront out of DICE. This will be year 3 since we actually had one of those big, massive multiplayer shooter experiences. And I think EA is looking at this as like, we need this tentpole, we need this release this year. This is very important to us financially in a year of COVID and pandemic delayed games. And I really believe a lot of the outlets right now are talking about how we saw some delays last year, but the pipeline is going to be much more affected this year because those games were things which were already in the final stages of development. So therefore just required QA, bug testing. You know, Cyberpunk is an example that maybe could have taken a little longer. But there was a lot of games that were delayed a few months. I think we're just going to see this year is going to be kind of empty of big releases. It's going to be a year for indie breakouts, which we're already starting to see with like Valheim and stuff. But I think we're not going to see a lot of big games this year at all. So EA is thinking probably, well, we might not have a lot of competition here. We could really do with this at the end of the year. So they've shifted Criterion over in a support role to make sure, you know, DICE gets that out the door. Rumors are that this is going to be multiplayer in a way we've never seen before. So even bigger than, I believe, what did it get up to? 64 v 64, 32 v 32, 50 v 50? I can't remember. It was big, weren't they? The Battlefield games. Something like that. But it's going to be considerably larger is what I've heard. Considerably. So if it's 100 v 100, like a double Battle Royale size situation, you know, in proper armies facing off each other, I'd be curious to see how it works, because it's all about making those maps make sense. Works. Yeah. Yeah, so the network infrastructure and then the gameplay. Are games like that fun? I'm not sure they always are. I've played some of those giant like mil sim games which are, you know, vast armies, and it's all very slow and it's all very realistic. So when you do get into battle, you take 2 bullets and you're dead, and you've got to go back 3 miles. And if everybody's taking the vehicles, you hoof it for 20 minutes to get back to the front lines, and then find out they've moved and or the game is already lost.
Or you hoof it for 20 minutes to get back to the front lines, get sniped out from across the other side of the map, and then have to hoof it for another 22 minutes.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Battlefield's been pretty good for that in the past, though, isn't it? I mean, as someone who's not that great at shooters, I've enjoyed Battlefield because it lets you be a semi-useful part of a more competent squad. You know, even if you're not great yourself, you can put yourself to some use as a medic or something. Maybe having more people on the field will accentuate that aspect of it, you know. So
did you play much of the last Battlefield 5, the one which was back to World War II, had some single player in there, but like the multiplayer was really what it was all about? I mean, it was okay.
It wasn't that interesting, was it? I mean, a lot of the promo material made it look like it was slightly more edgy than it was. It was fairly anodyne when it came out.
It was another World War II
shooter.
You know, with the M1 Garan's in there. You know, guns you remember from playing with a million times, and the rumor is that this is going back to a more modern day setting. I mean, what I'd be up for would be a Bad Company 3, because I still really enjoyed the Battlefield Bad Company games. I think that's when Battlefield was at its best, like really good multiplayer, but also a kind of slightly tongue-in-cheek sort of sarcastic single player. Because I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Three Kings, you know, about the soldiers in Iraq, but they kind of go rogue to steal gold and stuff from the Iraqis and stuff. It's like because they don't get paid. And I think it was a George Clooney vehicle at the time, early Clooney, I want to say. But that's what Bad Company felt like. It felt like, you know, it was all about soldiers kind of looking out for themselves, a bit more sarcastic, a bit more, you know, special forcery, but also a bit on the edge of doing what's right, a bit more morally ambiguous. And I think that was those were really good. And they also brought in a lot of the destructible environments. And that's what I'd really want to see from a game taking advantage of next-gen hardware. I want to see the ray tracing, and I want to see everything can be destroyed. Like, everything. Every tree, every house.
Ray tracing, though, mate. Ray tracing in a multiplayer environment, I don't think is probably a great fit. Especially if you want really huge battles and destructible scenery, then, yeah, I think that's probably not on the cards.
Would be asking nice for too much.
Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps. But what I'm saying is I want to see leaps. I want to see, you know, a big step forward in what can be. It's not just about player count, is it? It's about the gameplay. What can you do to make that gameplay a bit more immersive and less predictable? Because I think that's what happens with a lot of these military shooters. You get to know the map, you get to know what class is best on that map, and then you kind of take advantage of that. Like, you know, we were talking about sniping earlier, Rob. You know, once you learn where the best places to pitch up as a sniper are, that's what everybody does, isn't it? And it's that kind of meta. And it's sort of like, well, if we can remove that, if you can put an artillery strike down on that hill and crater it to a point where it can't be used as a sniper's point, changes up the gameplay, doesn't it? Keeps it fresh, less predictable. So I don't know, something like that. I'm purely guessing, but I guess the flip side of this is a delay on Need for Speed. Anybody bummed about that?
Yeah.
No. I think it's good news that it's gone back to Criterion. Maybe they'll do something good with it again, and a delay to make it. Well, it's not that they're working on it, is it? They've been pulled off for something else, but still, yeah, a delay doesn't bother me in the slightest, because I'm sure it'll be a step up from the last few Need for Speed games, and that franchise needs some new life into it, doesn't it?
Well, we had the remake come out, didn't we, of Hot Pursuit? That was the last one from last year, and that's a decent Need for Speed, and I'm not sure it needed a remaster / remake, but it was okay. And then before that, there was the sort of more traditional Need for Speed game, which I actually reviewed, and it's fine. It's just also kind of utterly forgettable. You know, it's a typical open world racing game where you drive to a thing, you get a story beat, you get a race, you do the race, you know, you win the race, you lose the race. Well, in Need for Speed Land, if you lose the race, you just have to do the whole thing again, because there's no rewinds or anything like that in those games, which is weird how much you get used to that when you're playing Forza Horizon continuously. It's like, oh, no rewind? What? It's very upsetting. But yeah, I mean, it was perfectly fine. I remember going out of my way to make the most obnoxious character and car possible in that game. And, you know, the customization is at that point where, yes, I can make my car out of gold with purple tinted windows and blue spinning rims, and then make my guy have a matching outfit and look like a dude bro with a disgusting hat, and you just hated everything about him. And that's totally possible. You can do that in a Need for Speed game. Yeah, so that's one of the nice things, I suppose. But yeah, that's lackluster entries by Ghost Games. Reading in this news article for the last few proper Need for Speed games, and yeah, not wrong. So that's the news out of EA's front. Did you guys ever use like the digital rental options
out of EA's front? Out of their wee hole.
I mean, you could have meant their mouth. I mean, that's also the front. It doesn't have to be their wee hole, Richard. Fair enough. I'm struggling this week because none of these stories have any natural segues whatsoever. There's like no connection there from EA, you know, delaying a game and putting a team on Battlefield to the next story, which is PlayStation Store are now retiring video rentals and purchases. And like, I don't.
A weird one, isn't it? I'm not surprised. There can't be many people who use that. I buy all my movies on Xbox.
Same.
For anyone who's interested. But yeah, I wonder what that means for people who've already bought stuff. Do they lose it? Does it get transferred somewhere else?
Any existing content you have purchased will remain yours to view, and you'll still be able to access this via the PlayStation Store on all your devices. You just won't be able to buy any more and have to go to Netflix instead, which is what it basically says in this article.
Okay.
But that, I didn't think they'd make it unavailable. But at the same time, I don't know. I think it's a little bit different than Microsoft's offering, because Microsoft's offering is obviously also available on PC, right? And in America, actually far wider than even that. There are apps and stuff that support their libraries across mobile device and stuff. Annoyingly, that's the one annoying thing with Microsoft stuff in the UK. You can't view it on your iPhone or whatever. It's real.
Well, you could on Windows Phone, mate. You could on that.
But then you'd have to have a Windows Phone,
idiot?
And that's punishment enough.
Robs.
They were the best.
They sucked.
They were so the best.
They sucked.
I dread
Still
to.
sore about it.
Anyway, I stop. Okay. Calm down. I personally hated the big massive tile UI for them. I thought that was the most retarded use of space I've ever seen on a phone.
Well,
because they were ginormous tiles.
Shut up.
But yeah, I thought that was bad. But anyway, right. So what I think it would be terrifying if I tried to actually calculate where I have films right now on what services I watch and own / rent / view. It would probably be like a dozen different services.
Oh
if not
no,
more.
that would. Oh, I couldn't stand that.
2 services.
Well, Rob's more streamlined, but I'm on Netflix, I'm on Amazon, I'm on Google, I'm on iTunes,
Google?
even, I guess. Like
Since
iOS.
when did Google provide
Google Store.
movies?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, for
And the Android
years and years and years, Rob.
Fair enough.
Years and years and years. Like I have some on PlayStation. I've maybe a couple of movies I've bought on PlayStation. Like you said, I've got a lot on my Xbox / Microsoft libraries. It just goes on and on and on. Rakuten, Chill. There's like a dozen that you can find on smart TVs, which I will float between because they'll give you an offer because you've not used it in ages. So it's like, do you want to get a movie for $1.99 because we haven't seen you in a while? I'm like, yeah, go on then. And then so that has that library there as well. So it's just, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And it's like, it's only getting worse because we're seeing more and more like of the studio specific outings now. Disney Plus has just come out not long ago. Obviously Paramount's just relaunching CBS All Access in the US. Then there's the ones that are region specific like Hulu, which you can't even get in the UK, but you can get some Hulu stuff on that plugin they've now put into Disney Plus. So it's like, this is so confusing. There's so much. Wouldn't it be great if it was all just in one place? But it'll probably never happen.
I mean, you're including streaming stuff, but yeah, when it comes to purchasing things, I could not stand having more than one place. That would really bother me. So yeah, I'm kind of committed to Xbox now. If they pull out of movies as well, I don't know what I'll do.
I wouldn't think they would. I wouldn't think they would. Like I said, because they're on Windows platform as well. For me, it's this cerebral situation where I probably own stuff and have bought it multiple times because I forgot that I own it somewhere else. And it's like they certainly know they get you that way. Like they must be aware that happens. So there's an app I use on iOS called Just Watch or something, which I can search for a film and it will tell me all the services it's on and where it streams, if it's streaming, if you have to buy it, rent it and stuff like that. You just plug in, which ones you use and it tells you if it's available there. But it doesn't tell me if I already own it there. I'd have to manually sort of curate that. And God, I'd have to go through, like I was just saying, so many. So losing one is not really the end of the world for me. It's actually makes things a bit easier. But I'd imagine though, like you being, built into the Microsoft ecosystem, if you were 100% in the PlayStation ecosystem and you were all about what you're doing on Microsoft but via PlayStation, this would be a bit of a blow. This would be why are you removing this functionality? It works perfectly fine. I've used it for years. Clearly, their metrics say not enough people, use it to justify it. But there will be people that do. Predominantly
especially since Sony are in the movie business as well. It seems odd.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does, but maybe they're going to be pushing forward, partnering up with someone else. Maybe something else is going to come out of this in a month or so's time. We'll get an announcement that Sony is going to have a new sort of streaming platform or rental platform that all combines everything. Maybe that's what the plan is here. And then this is the thing, right? We've got an endpoint for our lockdown here. Cinemas are going to be reopening in April. If things continue the way they are, fingers crossed. But
I am so excited for that.
I know. I can't even begin. I'm so desperate to go back to the cinema. I miss it so much. However, I don't know if we're the majority. I think there's a lot of people that have adjusted, that don't feel the need for them anymore, that are actually happy to watch these movies, pay 16 quid for a rental, basically, which is roughly how much they usually are. I've seen that would be a movie release. I think that's not going away. So, that move towards consuming at home is I think, going to just grow instead of diminishing when cinemas reopen. And they're going to have a real battle, I think. Cinemas are going to really struggle from April through the rest of this year. So fingers crossed, that's a big industry, and a lot of people, their livelihood is tied up into it. So we obviously care and watch about that almost as much as we do video games on this channel. So can't wait to see those cinemas open. I wonder what my first film will be back in there. Oh god, missing out the summer season last year for films. Killed me. I know what I'm getting. It's not Final Fantasy. Fast and Furious 9. That's what I'm all about, baby.
That's been delayed.
Fast and Furious 9. I know. Put it back another month, didn't they, bastards? But I am not going.
Not enough months. So far they put it back. Yeah. Not enough.
Black Widow, hopefully.
Yeah, that'll be top of my list because it's actually going to be a good movie, unlike Fast and Furious 9: Angry Space, which is where they're going to go with it.
It's not angry. It's about family, mate.
They're furious
and working together.
They're furious. They're angry. Perhaps if they went to some sort of family counselling, everything would get better and they'd slow down.
No, you see, they're furiously passionate about family. That's the thing. That's what it's about, mate. You just love, man. It's all about love.
And 17,000 gear changes a second.
Love and cars.
It's just like
about,
Gears
baby.
2 is about family. Dom's wife and all that. It's really about love.
I mean, some would argue that the acting in Gears 2 is stronger than the acting in Fast and Furious, but I am not one of them.
The wall behind me has stronger acting than the acting in Fast and Furious.
You can't be mean about Vin Diesel. He's a nerd. We have to support him.
I'm not being mean about Vin Diesel. He's great. Those movies aren't.
Have you seen The Last Witch Hunter? Because that's one of his, and that's bad. Have you seen Bloodshot? That's another one of his. Not great.
Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy? Not a good film. That's one of his. Yeah, it's great.
Weird tangent. I watched Saving Private Ryan for the first time the other week.
He's in that. Hold on. For the first time.
Yeah, it's one of those classic ones that I obviously should have seen and never have. I've got a whole list of them. It's
well, Rob, you don't see any films, Rob, but when Richard says things like that, I am shocked.
There's a bunch that I've never seen. Close Encounters, never seen.
No, you know the answer to. Oh, thank God for that.
Godfather, never seen any of them.
Same.
There's a bunch.
I think we're breaking Ben at this point, Richard. Ben has errored. Ben has blue screened.
I might get to it.
We need to plug him back in.
We're watching Snakes on a Plane at the minute, so we'll get that out of the way.
Oh God! You're not seeing Close Encounters, but you're watching that.
A classic film. Classic film.
Saying that, do you know what I watched on Netflix last night? I watched the amazing, I think it's late 90s, early 2000s action spectacular starring Colin Farrell, Jeremy Renner, and they both look about 14, and Samuel L. Jackson, and that is SWAT. So I literally watched SWAT on Netflix last night. Don't know why.
Please tell me it's the three of them chasing a very aggressive fly. Just
it's the really politically uncomfortable militarized police force concept right now, and it's a film about that. It's about kicking indoors, not caring. Literally, Samuel Jackson goes around saying, like, recruiting people at one point, and he says, so you're a bit of a by the book kind of policeman. Yeah, I would only do stuff if it said it. And he goes, well, what if sometimes you've got to break the rules for the bigger reason? If you have to beat that guy up real bad because you know he's not a good guy, but we don't have time for due process. And she's like, and that's why he doesn't put the guy on the team, because he wants to be a good policeman. And you're like, oh, that's so uncomfortable right now that you're encouraging that kind of behavior.
So many things I could turn around and say that film needs to stop.
So bad.
Anyway.
Anyway, indeed. Should we talk about... We went off on a little one there, because there's not a lot of news. But let's get on to the next news
I restrained myself from my own tangent there, so this is a good thing.
Well done. I'm sure we'll have some tangents on the next two connected news stories. So, there's been some controversy around Hogwarts Legacy. We discussed this a little bit last week. We may have got a tiny bit polemic in our discussions, but, I'll try and keep that to a minimum this time, Rob. Thank you for the feedback, though. But basically... I think they are listening. I think they are listening to a degree, though in the second story,
So subtle.
The first story, though, Hogwarts Legacy is going to reportedly have trans-inclusive character creator. And the fact that video game in 2021 about an RPG, about school kids, needs to come out and say that says a lot about the insane levels of controversy about the creator of this property, which we've been over before. But I do think it's an odd comment to come out and say, by the way, we're going to give you a lot of freedom in your character creator. I wonder if it will be as poorly handled as Cyberpunk's was. But I am.
It's
I am
usually
curious.
at this point I would turn around and say I don't think it's possible to handle something worse, but I suspect they may find a way. It's.
If you do make a trans character, you have to wear a badge that says "freak" as you go around in the game or something. You know how that is that something maybe that could be
that would
worse,
be a way
it?
to have it done worse, which would be highly annoying for the people that this is important for. You know, this isn't particularly relevant for the three of us who are three cis white guys. You know, irrelevant for us, but it will be relevant for the trans audience, and that is awesome that it's been included.
I often play role-playing games when you get a character creator as a female character because I find it interesting to see how that character is going to have different types of interactions. It's not always about certain games I want to have a representation of myself in it, you know, to experience it from my perspective. But other times, I think it's interesting to actually see the differences at how the game will handle that gender choice. You know, what they're talking about is a character designer will let you pick from unlinked body type and voice options for your Hogwarts school protagonist. Body types are labeled as either witch or wizard, and this will also determine which of your school's dormitories your character is placed in. So you can kind of, it's a similar thing to Cyberpunk. How the you know the character was spoken to was determined by, I believe in that, if I remember right, it was the voice choice. So if you chose a masculine tone, it would be addressed as he, and if you chose a feminine tone, you'd be addressed as she. Where that doesn't actually represent trans people, does it necessarily? If you think about that, so there's a problem there. So this is supposedly going to handle that better, unlinked.
I'm also wondering whether they're going to have a
options.
non-binary option, whether you have to be one of the polarized ends of male or female, or whether you can choose to be directly in the middle and go by they and them pronouns, whether they're going to try and work that in somehow.
I think, you know, you're dealing with a fantasy setting here. Like, there should be as many options and ability, you know, and choices as there is anything. You know, it's so silly when you're dealing with the games with, you know, witches and wizards and trolls and goblins and I'm trying to think bloody what stuff is in Harry Potter. I'm really struggling here. But even if you get into like BioWare, you know, elves and orcs and dwarves and why do we have? No, I know, but I just in fantasy in general, it's like why, and then they're given gendered pronouns. Like, why are they gendered in the same way as humans would be? You know, it doesn't necessarily make any sense, but that's just how we address things because it's comfortable to us. And I think you know, it's really cool to hear if this studio is going to try and address things a little bit differently and a bit more inclusive. You know, but at the same time, you've got to say this has got to be a reaction, hasn't it? This has got to be that they're coming out and saying this is purely a reaction to the negative press around the creator.
They haven't come out and said it, have they? It's been leaked. So the question is whether it's a deliberate leak.
Yeah, it's been leaked. You know, I don't believe that is an accidental leak for the life of me. 100% when they've been getting backlash over a right-wing lead designer who I'm going to assume...
It's convenient timing.
Yeah, exactly. When that's like in its heyday... Like, come on, there's got to be some sort of, actually, no, we're nice, really, sort of news story that's going to come out. And I think this is their attempt at proving that those views that this person may hold, I'm going to probably correctly assume that he goes down that particular view of thinking, aren't shared by the game's end result.
Yeah.
So there's a comment here.
I mean,
There's a comment here. There's a comment here from within the article referencing where the article came from, annoyingly, which I can't do because it comes from a paywall kind of website, which is Bloomberg. But however, the writer here is Jason Schreier, so one of the most sort of respected video game journalists working today. He's one of the people that's broken lots of big stories over the year, and is one of the people I would actually call a journalist rather than a video game critic. You know, he actually does investigative reporting. And there's a comment here about, in his response to the sort of argument that, like you just said, that it was a controlled leak. And he says, and he said this via Twitter, it's funny that people think that, one, game companies do controlled leaks, and two, if they did, they they'd try to do it through me, Schreier wrote. The people leaking this news did it because development of the game started long before Rowling's anti-trans crusade and because they're sad and frustrated. So what that would imply is that this was always on the cards, but they're really bummed that their game is being tarred with this brush, and they want to actually do a positive spin on it because, you know, they're hardworking and they put a lot of love into this. And that's unrelated to the Troy Levitt stuff, which we'll get into shortly, supposedly. So
that
if I was going
to, that sounds just as likely as a sort of publisher level leak, doesn't it? The people involved in the project actually want to represent it fairly.
Yeah.
There's hundreds, if not thousands, of people working on this game, and they're all getting hammered to crap because of Troy Levitt stuff and the J.K. Rowling stuff. And that we talked about this last week, and it is that difficulty of, do you boycott the whole product? Do you say, I'm not buying this game, and I'm going to tell people not to buy this game? If you have an outlet, well, everybody has a voice. And because of the actions of two individuals in this situation. So it's a very difficult choice. It's a very difficult one. You can make that decision. And, you know, I'm not telling anybody to pick it either way. But it is tricky. And I think last week we had an interesting conversation because Cameron sat on the other side of this, didn't he? So it was an interesting debate that we had. But
can I just pick up on something Rob said a little bit earlier? You said it's not relevant for people like us. I think it is actually.
Oh, fair.
So that there will be people in our demographic that have a problem with trans issues. And I think the more it's normalized, not that it's not normal, but obviously it's contentious for some, the more that we see of it, I think is healthy. So even though it's there ostensibly to hopefully serve the trans community, it's good for all of us as a community as a whole, I think.
Collective whole, it's great, and it's a very healthy step forward that more games are doing this. But I don't think the three of us would necessarily have looked for that feature. But there would be people who are trans who would go, why isn't that feature there if it was absent? So,
well, like Ben said, it's interesting to explore beyond your own personal boundaries, isn't it? So even then,
some people get really weirded out by that, and I think that's a real shame that we still have that issue. I know there's a few gamers I've spoken to when you talk about role-playing games, and I'll say, I don't know, I play Mass Effect as a woman or Dragon Age as a woman and stuff. They look at you like you're mad. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And it's like, flip her around, mate. Like, what's wrong with you where you think that's weird? You know what I mean? It's like, why wouldn't you do that? And it's a case of, don't you want to find out what the differences are in life, you know, and see how well this is represented, poorly, well, you know, or maybe it's really, really, really well done, you know, and that's what you'd hope to see. And going forward, I'm sure it is what we'll see. We're going to see better representation of all of this, you know, and it's not just trans people, but it's you know, different genders and it's different races and all of that. And we're seeing more representation of that appearing in video games. It's not happening quickly enough, but fingers crossed it will continue to happen. So let's tie this into the amazing Troy Levitt stuff. Troy Levitt is standing down from his role in the development of this Harry Potter Legacy or Hogwarts, Legacy. As what was he? He was the lead something, wasn't he?
He was lead designer or something, I think.
Yeah, it was somewhere very senior. The annoying thing is in his statements, I have made the decision to part ways with Avalanche Software. I have had nothing but good things to say about the game, the dev team, and WB Games. I will be releasing a YouTube video soon about this soon on my channel. So this this very carefully is saying I wasn't pushed, I jumped. And it sounds like, look, if I'm being really cynical, this sounds to me like this man has like done the cold hard maths and thinks to himself that he might be able to make more money out of his YouTube channel based off of this controversy, getting the views onto his channel than he would in his current role. That why deal with this crap when I can just double down as a right-wing arsehat and become a semi-successful YouTuber for it? Because there is large portions of the internet that love nothing more than the kind of crap he produces.
He's just steering into the clickbaity thing of, I left for these 10 reasons. Number 7 will shock you. And that's what he's doing.
I'm not going to tell you now why I left, but check out my video in a week's time.
Exactly.
I'll tell you all about it. It's like, please don't check
because
it out.
Then that's also preying on the algorithm, because when you click on that, you'll be suggested similar things with similar views, and that's how the internet influences and can twist ideals.
It's all gross, and it's the fact that, you know, nobody at Avalanche supposedly or Warner Brothers has said to him, not sure you're a right fit for this. But he's made the decision supposedly. I don't know how true is that. You know, how much is he covering himself? You know, maybe there will obviously be stuff. See, you know, confidential things here that have gone on in that company that we'll never find out, and that's fair to protect people. But at the same time, the cynic in me just sees all of that as just gross, just nasty shit, you know, just to manipulate people even more. And, you know, like we were talking about last week, the fact is he disclosed this YouTube channel of his when applying for the job, and WB were like, nah, it's fine. All good. You know, and they didn't have an issue with hiring him. So, Richard, you've not really had a chance to comment on this too much. I wonder if there's anything you wanted to say about any of that.
I tend not to like giving the oxygen of publicity to characters like that. He wants to create controversy, don't give it to him. Just leave him to shout into the wind would be my advice.
I mean, so beyond talking about Levitt, how do you feel about someone like Warner Brothers not having an issue with the kind of content he's produced? I mean, that to me is like, you know, if you're an industry leader, you're a big publisher, you know, you're obviously already in bed with J.K. Rowling and don't seem to have an issue with her stuff. It's troubling to me.
I don't think it is. I mean, there's a line where, pun not intended, but you're liable to create a witch hunt if you have standards that are so far removed from the realistic makeup of your workforce. There will be people with views like this. The question is, are they in a position to bring you into disrepute with it? And he's a producer on the project. Perhaps he is likely to have had
design lead.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you might say that's not really a public-facing role. Is it an issue that he's got questionable views outside of his work?
It's not just about having views, though, is it? It's about publicly espousing them through a popular YouTube channel, a semi-successful YouTube channel, more so than us, but, you know, not on the same scale as like a PewDiePie, but big enough. So, I mean, isn't that a strange choice?
I have a personal interest in this because I have competing interests within my professional and personal life, and I try to keep them separate. So whether he's aligned himself with his employer in espousing those views, that would be an issue, of course. If he hasn't, and there's a clear line made, then he should be allowed to say what he feels he wants to say. However grim that is, you know, you've got to allow his right to speak that, haven't you?
But okay, so where does the you're talking about freedom of speech and stuff, but when you're talking about borderline possible, I haven't watched all of his videos or anything because again, I don't want to give him that. I've read reports.
I haven't either. You're so dealing. If you said something really awful, then I might.
I mean, you're dealing with a Gamergate supporter. You're dealing with, you know, a misogynist. You're dealing with somebody dealing in hate speech and hate concepts. So it's kind of like when you're then tying that person up into a lead role on a project, you know, which is going to get a lot of publicity already because of the nature of the creator. It just starts to show sort of like a pattern of support for it at that level. And that's to me very concerning when you talk about industry leaders. When you're talking about you know, WB Publishing is a large publishing arm. You know, they don't just do Harry Potter stuff. Obviously, they're, you know, Mortal Kombat's one of theirs as well. So you know, there's a lot of decent sized games coming. And Mortal Kombat, by the way, the developer NetherRealm has had a lot of controversy around their working practices relatively recently. So it does sort of speak to a culture of supporting this negative ideals and negative working. And toxic environments, you know, it's just not great.
But at the same time, you have got to get that balance, because it becomes ammunition for people on the right side, and I'm saying right as in not the opposite of wrong, to say that conservatives are vilified and being pushed out of jobs, roles, and not able to speak. It's obviously bullshit, but a lot of them do say that, and I think to give them that ammunition is unwise.
Great example of what you just said is Carla Gugino from Star Wars as the Mandalorian recently, who was let go by Disney due to her, you know, Hitler equating what was it, the extermination of the Jews to the kind of the way in which conservatives are vilified in the public eye.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's wrong with you, Carla? I mean, that was like, but a lot of other stuff as well. And then you've had people come out in her defense, they come out against her as well. So that, you know, there are more and more examples of that. It is difficult. It's a very difficult balance.
It brings then interesting to mention the balance of when does someone's quality of work outbalance their political views, because someone could be reprehensibly politically problematic, but at the same time their design work, if we use Troy Levitt as or whatever his name is as an example, his lead design work, he could be an incredibly capable lead designer who is very, very good at his job. It's then that balance of how much do you want to bring politics into the workplace. It's a really difficult situation.
Yeah, how much should you, or shouldn't you, hold people accountable in unrelated fields?
Exactly.
And I think that is really difficult. I think Richard mentioned it, about how public this person would be, easy like a visual or auditory representation of the company, of the project. To a degree, for whatever reason, he has become that. So, I guess heroically he stepped down so people can focus on the positive sides of Hogwarts Legacy. So
I bet that's the spin he's going to do, that he did it for the good of the community.
That is how they generally do it. And like Richard said, they will paint themselves as victims. And it's
sadly, that's the opposite of the real problem, isn't it? I mean, this is all about harm that is caused to individuals and groups of people. The reason you find conservatives targeted, if you like, in this sort of way is because they cause harm, and it's about damage limitation. You don't get conservatives being cancelled for saying rich people should pay less tax. That's a conservative belief, but you do get them being vilified for comparing their own plight to that of the Jews or something. It's just another level, isn't it? So if they're going to cause harm and disrespect and offence to people in on that sort of level, then they are responsible for the repercussions of their own words, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. And I think we leave it at that, and I think we move on to our big news story for the week that I really want to delve into. Fingers crossed we won't be revisiting this Hogwarts issue. I'm still excited by that game.
I'm still looking forward to it.
Whether or not I play it, I don't know yet, but we'll see what happens in the intervening time before release. So let's talk about. This is fascinating. And whether or not we can do it justice, I would recommend you check out our show notes to get all the details into the background of this. But this issue is absolutely mind-blowing to me. So this is the Sinking City. This is Frogwares and Nacon, the publisher. Now, it's hard to even work out where to start because it's been going on for some time. So, and weirdly not relevant to the console versions of the game, because the console versions are kind of almost self-published by Frogwares. So Nacon isn't actually involved with those. However, they are very much involved with the Steam release of this game. And there was quite a lot of legal dispute going back to the sort of summer of last year between the developer Frogwares and the publisher Nacon regarding the Sinking City. And this was kind of, we thought this popped up as a story. I remember at the time, and I thought, okay, there's legal proceedings going on now. It'll be quiet until that's resolved in one way or the other. Stuff like this happens sometimes. People fall out, deals get changed in ways, or the developers put in certain work and they don't think they're being fairly represented, and that's absolutely fine. That happens. And now we have Frank the podcast dog has joined us for this segment as well. Hello, Frank. God, I love all the animals we have on this podcast. It's amazing. But basically this all kicked off again about 2 weeks ago when Sinking City reappeared on Steam, and it was put up again by the publisher Nacon. And then Frogwares did this thing, because they have like control of the sort of Steam related news feed still, even though they didn't, turns out, put this version of the game up on Steam. It was done by Nacon without the permission or the knowledge of Frogwares, and they've gone and they put out a little message saying, we didn't create the version of this game. The version that's on sale, that is on sale today on Steam is not ours. We do not recommend the purchase of this version. More news coming soon. But it turns out that Nacon purchased a copy of the game from a sort of a key reseller, not through Steam. They then used developers from one of their other development houses to, for all intents and purposes, hack or crack the game code so that they were then able to put the code back up onto Steam in a version that they modified to pull out sort of internal advertising for other Frogware games, which is what Frogwares originally had in there. Put Nacon all over it and remove Frogware from things like the credits and the title page so that you didn't even know that they were involved with the game. It also didn't have subsequent patches or the DLC that had been added to the game and was basically an inferior version of the Sinking City. So obviously Frogwares weren't particularly happy with this.
I can't possibly think why.
Weird, isn't it? So we've now got them in this position where Frogwares have issued a DMC takedown notice to Steam, which has removed the game, their own game, from Steam once again. And have I missed any other relevant salient points, boys? Or have I hit everything? Because I know you guys have read the stories as well. But this is fascinating. This is insane to me. And this is all while happening. There is an ongoing legal case, I believe, in a French court regarding this entire situation. It's incredibly messy.
The biggest thing that is my takeaway from this is that Nacon separately stated that they have repeatedly and unsuccessfully requested that Frogwares make the game available on Steam, failing which it would apply a clause in the contract where in such a case the game would be adapted by a third party. So they've essentially turned around and said, we are doing what we have been accused of,
not denying
but
it, not
we
denying it.
really wanted to because a piece of paper says we can. That's not what the piece of paper says you can do, because what you've done is stolen the source code. You should then take up litigation against Frogwares and go, you are not fulfilling your portion of this contract by making this game available on Steam. Make it available on Steam. That's the proper due process, not I'm going to buy it, hack it and sell it back. That's not logical.
So, I think we're in this really interesting position.
They're not going to try selling The Witcher 3, are they, as well? Someone bought the source code for that recently.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a million miles away from the hack on Cyberpunk and the loss and the theft of their source code, you know, that for The Witcher 3 and CD Projekt Red. It's not a million miles away from that. And I think the interesting thing we've got here is that Nacon have also said things like, you know, we put a huge amount of money into the development of this game. We put a huge amount of money into the marketing of this game. The game would not have been as successful as it had been without us. You know, this contract was signed. This contract is this contract. So you've got this fight between the legality of a contract on Nacon's side and then the kind of ethical, moral ownership that the developer Frogwares have over their own product. So it's this interesting fight of like intent versus legality, and I'm really curious to see where this falls out when it comes to what comes out of the courts. However, you know, the inclination is for all of us to be on the side of the developer, the creative force behind the game. You know, nobody wants to side with the evil, you know, empire that is the publisher, because, you know, when a publisher's ever done anything that's good for anything other than their bottom line, they literally know that's all they care about. But you can't fault them for that. That's their business model. Their whole deal is that we bring money in to a game's development, so we own a portion of it, or some kind of contractual deal to profit share or something, and we bring money in to help develop, put the game out, and to market the game. That's predominantly what a publisher does. So you can't fault them for wanting to recoup their costs, can you? I mean, that's the world we live in. But it's a fascinating one. It's fascinating to see them DMCA their own game.
You can fault them for trying to steal the game's code.
Their argument would be that we own it. You can't steal what you already own. So it's like
if you already own it,
they're entitled to release the game on Steam.
Yes, but
that's the part of the deal.
Yes, but Ben, if you already own it, then you have it.
Yeah.
You don't need to go to a reseller to get a version of it to hack into with some developers. If you have it, I have this phone. I don't need to steal it from Samsung. You know, it's... They've gone about this in a really, really stupid way.
It's not something I feel like maybe I don't know enough about Nacon. I know they're middle tier. They're not massive. They're not tiny. They're kind of like almost triple indie size publisher. And Frogwares has been putting out. They did a lot of the Sherlock Holmes games and stuff like that. So before Sinking City, so they're kind of like, again, they're kind of triple indie / B tier game. You know, it's not the biggest sort of release, but Sinking City did. You know, it's had relatively okay reviews. You know, some quite positive. It was fairly not mediocre, but it was a bit of jank to it. But what you'd expect from an ambitious project. that was shooting above maybe its weight a bit, which is something I actually always appreciate to see when a developer actually strives for something maybe beyond their natural capacity. But no, I think I can't wait to see what the next chapter is in this, and I will definitely keep you guys updated. But it has been a roller coaster so far when it comes to the he said, she says, and one of them will do something, and there'll be a counter by the other guy, and then what's coming after this DMCA takedown? I can't wait to see what Nacon's next step will be, because at the end of the day, they want to sell this game so they can make back money. They can make money off of it. And that's what it really all comes down to on Steam. But obviously the game that version before it got pulled was review bombed to hell. Every bloody player on the planet who wanted to support Frogwares went out and just shat all over Sinking City. So it's not even going to get great visibility on Steam because due to the negative reviews on it, it's all being talked about on every kind of major outlet going at the minute as well. So the old adage of any press is good press. So it will get eyeballs on this game if it comes back up. People are going to be curious. They're going to want to try it. So I don't know, Richard, you've not said much about this. What do you think about this? It's all I'm just fascinated by it. I'm loving spectating this. It's like a drama on TV. I think they should 100% when this is all settled, they should make a TV a book about it at least, or a TV show or something. I'd be fascinated.
I think I tend to agree with what Rob said. The publisher obviously has a legitimate interest in recouping its money, but the method that they've gone about doing it, hacking a version of the game, doesn't seem on the level, does it? I wonder how the arrangement in this is typical of the rest of the industry, where a publisher owns rights to data that they do not hold, whether that's common.
I would assume that
it seems unusual.
I would assume it's a case of that the developer and the publisher both have a common agreement and proceed with everything step by step. That would be the logical sense. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for a publisher to necessarily hold the game code, because that's what the developers are for.
But you'd think they'd have a copy of it, having legal rights to it. Yeah,
there must be some sort of copy that they can go, Steam, this is what we would like you to publish, please.
There is actually, there is a massive amount of variation between these agreements. Like it's huge. Everything from a co-marketing deal, which is just we're going to put some money in to help promote your game and therefore want some for the back end, to we're coming in at inception here, we're going to fund half of the development of this. You couldn't make this without us. Basically, you would not have the capital to have the people, to pay the people to actually develop this game without our investment. So it go or all the way to the publishers that basically own developers, like you see with EA and Microsoft and all of this. So there's a huge amount of variety. So, but that's going to be deep within the legalese of the contracts, and I don't think the contracts have been made public, though that might happen when we get further into the legal ramifications. And to be honest, it could be a situation where one of them will just leak them and go, yeah, look, see, this is what they fucking signed on, one way or the other. And I suspect the contract will actually support Nacon more than it will Frogwares, because these guys are all about making sure they get paid, right? So that's how contracts are, set up for in favor of the publisher. I'd be very surprised if they gave a lots of freedom to Frogwares to do as they wish and do what they want with code and stuff like that. But it's all messy. It's all about money at the end of the day. Frogwares feeling like they've been under represented in the terms of remuneration, and then Nacon saying, no, actually, we've already given them one of the statements. We've already given them 10 million euros and stuff. So it's like, we're owed this. This is what it says we should have. So it is that kind of, the creative side against the money side, the contract side. I can't wait to see what comes out of that. But at the end of the day, a judge, in contract law is probably going to follow the letter of the contract more closely than the hopeful intent of it, I suppose. So it's gonna be an interesting one. That it's gonna be very interesting. I suspect it will be back up on Steam before long, in one way or another. I think it will be back soon. Yeah.
One thing it's made me think maybe I should go out and check that game now, because I bought it a long time ago. I know you did as well, Ben. Maybe we should play it.
I think I will. I'm going to give it a go. We have the console versions again, so that's a whole different kettle of fish. This dispute isn't actually related to that, because of how they were published was not with Nacon. So it's all very confusing, but interesting. Hey, and talking about games, Cyberpunk still isn't even up on the PlayStation Store.
No.
So, I mean, people forgot about that. You still can't buy that on PlayStation, can you? So it's mad, because they had to delay the patch because of the attack and all of that. So yeah, it's still not up there. Crazy to think of that, isn't it, when you think about it? But absolutely mind-blowing. That's the end of news. We went off on some stuff there. We went on to a couple of tangents. That was a good one, though. Some good stories, some interesting stuff to discuss. But now we are moving on to the Gamepass Club. Gamepass Club.
You're still sticking with that theme
That's
sheet.
today's jingle.
Maybe I should do a proper one. I was thinking we need to get some jingles and stuff to go in. I know I said it 2 years ago.
I bought some software. I bought some software to make music as well, and I was like, well, yeah, I can see how this would work, but boy, is it going to take a lot of time. So yeah, lots of loops and stems and all this crap, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, maybe when I got my new computer, I'll sort it out. But we are going to talk about
Falconeer,
a little game called Falconeer. Can anybody help me out with the developer, because I didn't look at it?
Oh god, it's a man.
A man.
One guy, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
You've narrowed it down there.
Developed by a man. Falconeer is a pretty cool game. We did talk about it a couple of weeks ago when we were debating which ones we were going to do. And it's basically a kind of like Rogue Squadron, if you remember that from back on the day. But it's like a flying fighting game. You fly around on a giant falcon. You shoot enemy falcons and airships. And you can also shoot things on the ground like vessels. It's set in this really fascinating world of like ocean and islands, and it's got a bit of a Game of Thrones vibe to it, to the political intrigue that's at play as well between the characters. But basically, you fly around and shoot stuff, and drop things on people, and dogfight. But except, Falcon Fight, I guess would be a more accurate name for it. But no, I went back to this. I played it at launch when it first came out on the console, but I played some more over the weekend and stuff. And yeah, who's it by? Rob, looks like you got the information.
Thomas Sala.
He stole it. He stole it.
I went all Nacon on him.
Considering I tried to say that about 3 times, but Ben kept talking.
I was giving the intro to the game. God. And then I went to you, but you weren't assertive enough, Rob. Next time, just
I
speak over
opened
Richard.
my mouth and Richard was talking. It was like I was his marionette.
Puppet, Rob.
So what did you guys think of the Falconeer?
Let's go first. Richard's played a bunch. Richard can dive in.
I've played a fair bit. My initial impression was, this is like Sea of Thieves, isn't it? Like, but in the sky. So Sky of Thieves, maybe. But the visual style.
Just how it looked, because it don't play like Sea of Thieves.
No, because you can't get harpooned.
It kind of does in a way.
Hey, like Sea of Thieves.
I think
Sea of Thieves is a co-op focused game that you can only play in. What are you talking about? Plays like Sea of Thieves.
Look, I know there's loads of massive differences, but there are superficial differences that stood out to me and added up. So one is the visual element. 2 is the disparate nature of the environments. It's all just a load of sea with hardly anything in it. 3, the characterizations. It's all, the characters look similar, don't they? The way that they're drawn and the way that they're acted.
So they follow a consistent art style.
The mission structure, it feels like a lot of it is going out, getting a thing, then delivering it back somewhere. There are similarities to Sea of Thieves. What also struck me as similar was just the looseness of some of the game mechanics. So this is a airborne shooter. You mentioned Rogue Squadron there, didn't you, as a parallel? Mm-hmm. I was thinking it's going to be more like Panzer Dragoon, but it doesn't have the accuracy of either of them. I think because the camera is set quite far back behind the Falcon, that makes it look great, but it makes it really difficult to shoot accurately. And it's got...
Isn't Panzer Dragoon on rails?
Yes, and that's what I thought this was.
You thought it was going to be on rails? Oh, no.
Almost.
No.
I was not prepared for the open world expanse that this game actually is.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be like that at all.
I quite enjoyed it. There's a button prompt you can do when you are going back and forth between mission areas where you can hold A to fly there. No, I'm flying this manually. Because you have the wind, it will divert you, push you off course. The environment is beautiful. I flew it really manually. Every time.
Yeah, I thought it was stunning. Sometimes
the lighting...
It takes
time to get to places, though.
And I
enjoyed
enjoyed
a long time to get to places. And I felt that the experience of flying just wasn't satisfying enough. One, after a few seconds of flying, it will go into this effect where the Falcon sort of banks left and right to make it feel like you're flying. And yeah, it's kind of cool, but it also makes you think your controller's got stick drift.
It did make me. It made me think that the first time it happened, I was like, "Oh no, not another controller! Oh, for the love of God, not another!" And then it's like, "Oh," and then it went the other way, and I was like, "Oh, hold on, maybe this is just an effect." Oh, okay.
I'm surprised that controller problems was your guys' first response to a game where you are flying in the air.
Well, but you'd expect if you're pointing in that direction, you'd keep going in that direction. But you kind of do this thing where you, and then it's really lovely. I really like it.
Denotes wind changes.
No, absolutely.
It's not. It's after a while, it just decides it wants to start banking after.
It's like an idle animation.
No, the map, the mini map on the bottom has weather features on it. So clearly, it's something that is a thing. It may not be linked to completely to where you are at, but I would completely expect it to change your course. So
I'm not sure. I just want to go back to the Sea of Thieves thing from Richard. I don't know what he's been smoking, but I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure where the parallels are. Yeah, the fact that it has visually cohesive, like most games. I don't really understand how that makes it like Sea of Thieves.
But I mean, saying Mass Effect is visually cohesive.
Kind of like the kind of the low polygon look. Is that kind
sort of? But no, it was more about the gameplay though. So
not getting that.
No, it really is. So you know how Sea of Thieves, where you go to a place and then you wildly thrash a sword about and it's crap, right? The combat.
When's the last time you played it? I only played it a few weeks ago, but yeah, it's better than it was. But yeah, kind of. Yeah, I know.
No, it's not. It's not exactly top tier combat mechanics, though, is it? It's really ramshackle.
This is way better than that.
Not say that's not the selling point of the game. It's got other good things about it, but you can't say it's a good combat game. So I think
not on
the
foot.
Same issue.
Not on foot.
No, but I think the same issue applies here with the airborne combat. That you want it to be a dynamic, flying under arches, swooping about, doing barrel rolls and all of that, and getting behind someone, doing precise takeouts on them. You can't do that because the aiming is not very accurate because the camera is too far back. You can't.
You using the lock-on?
Yeah, you can use like a camera lock-on, but you can't use.
Oh, that's a targeting lock-on as well. Yeah, targeting lock-on as well. Yeah. When you push X, it locks on at first, but when you get close enough, when you get within lock-on distance, it actually will direct your shots onto target as well. You have to lead them a little bit, but no, it definitely does. It does assist with the shooting as well. But I was doing everything you just said, right? You pull the brakes, you do the thing, you stop in the air, you flip around, you get on the guy's back, take them out, then you're diving down, you're swooping up, you're coming up, you're doing going through things, flying. I was doing all of that that you just said you weren't doing. Barrel rolling left, barrel rolling right. You've got that ability to do it in the game, dodge and get in there and stuff. I was doing all that.
I don't think it's me because I've not had this problem in other similar games, but it's most prominent when you're near to the environment. So if there are islands nearby, particularly where there's quite a lot of complex geography with flags sticking up or trees sticking out the side of mountains, or you're flying under an arch, the collision detection is such that your Falcon will reel back or try and bounce away or even get trapped almost in a sort of bounce back animation when you even get close to stuff. So that desire to sail close to the wind and really get in amongst the geography, because it's thrilling to do that. That's one of the things that you want to do in a flight.
I think you are. I think you're kind of correct, but it's not how the game kind of works best, is it? It's meant to be like, I guess the in universe lore there would be, well, it's a fucking living creature. It doesn't want to fly towards a cliff. Wants to stop, and it does kind of make sense. However, I think what you're this is the limitations of the fact that a game made by one man. It's that I think when you're talking about terrain following, it's just not really what has been designed as its strength. It's the high altitude combat, the flying and swooping towards an empty ocean and picking up the bombs and then flying up and doing maneuvers. It's when you are near the islands, then there's probably a reason that they're quite sparse and not that often, and there is a lot of empty spaces. Yes, that's probably not an area that was focused on, because already the game was ambitious. And I think, for one person to then make all of that work as smoothly as you would like or would expect from previous other games in this type of genre, it's just not the strength of the game. But I think when you're in the open air, there's a great sense of speed, of mobility, of just feeling like you are this bird, in flight, which felt amazing and really kind of freeing and open. Like Rob said, the traversal, just flying between places, feels stunning. The lighting effects, the storms, the dawns, the sunsets, when it's coming through the clouds and off the sea,
the lightning just arcing onto your back.
It looks when you're charging it all up and stuff.
The traversal thing, I think you guys are wrong. I think the fact that they've got a quick travel button is an admission that travel in between places is boring, because all you see is the sea. There's nothing in this, and you'd expect
there's mysteries to discover and stuff.
There are hidden areas to discover. There are things moving around. The map isn't densely populated, but would you really want a map relentlessly filled with stuff?
No,
because Richard wants to fly through it all.
I would want there to be more of a fun traversal mechanic. People, I'm not going to say this game's like Spider-Man, all right? But imagine...
Wow, just as much as it's like Sea of Thieves, so go for
it. But people really liked the way you got across the city in Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the trick in this sort of game, where you've got a big area to get across, is make it fun to get across. And Spider-Man sort of got that, although I find that kind of boring after a while as well. But this just doesn't. You just point in a direction and you go there.
But I did find
without
it fun.
that fun of, I didn't.
Fair enough.
You just kind of
contrasting opinions.
Go there.
I don't think a speed up button is necessarily admittance that there is a flaw in the travel, though. It's accepting that there are going to be different people with different priorities. For myself, it's more going to be enjoying that graceful flight, those peaceful transitions, the weather effects, all of that sort of stuff. But for yourself, you want to get more objective based. Go do the thing, get back, do the next mission, do this, do that. You want to progress.
Not necessarily. I just want the journey to be fun. I'll give you another example. So Echo the Dolphin, I'm going back a bit now, but a lot of the fun in that game was just jumping out of the water and see if you could do a barrel roll or not before you get back in. And, get into places in that. It's just swimming about. But the way you do it is really fun. And I remember just hammering the button, trying to get him to swim as fast as possible. And that was great. In this, you've got an energy bar, a sort of, it's not energy,
Boost
but...
bar.
Boost, your boost bar thing. It runs out in like 2 seconds. If you could, there's a button where you can try and speed up your flight and get to your destination faster. It burns out in no time, and it's not really an intuitive and fun way to try and build that back up. You can sort of dive towards the sea and it will come back up a bit again, but it doesn't feel fun in the way
I think
that something like remember the Crackdown flight suits? They were pretty good for that. You got a real sense of momentum as you dove, and you could carry that back up into a rising arc. And that
I think it's worth remembering though. Crackdown, Spider-Man, they've all got fast travel options. Right? So there's no different to what you have in a Falconeer. I mean, even in games with incredible traversal, there's fast travel. It's just the nature of games.
I'm being unfair. But I mean, it felt like to me, because I wasn't enjoying it, it felt like a Get Out rather than a standard game design thing.
I think the other issue with the games of this genre is there is an inherent limitation to mission structures and what you can do in these games. So there's, go here, blow something up, go here, pick something up, go here, bomb, go here, shoot stuff, escort this thing, escort that thing. That's kind of it, isn't it? I mean, there's no, it's the same in Ace Combat games. It's the same in Rogue Squad. There is a limit. There is a limit to what you can do. And I think it's a case of what Falconeer does is it wraps those limits up in, I found a really interesting, different world. I'd never quite experienced. It actually gave me, what it gave me when it came to the storylines and some of the art design as well, was I got a distinct Dishonored vibe. Like it felt like Dunwall could be a part of this world, and it felt like those could be like on the edge of the map. They could be related. The political intrigue and all of that was going on could be that. And look, it's nowhere near to that level of polish and nowhere near to that level of complexity. And it felt like, let's be honest, the voice acting was done by two people putting on silly voices. But, you know, it was cool to see them trying. I mean, and it was quite funny when you hear this. Clearly, I would have said the same voice actor doing like literally the three people talking to each other were all the same guy going, all right then, what? We'll go here. Oh, okay, we'll go there then. All right then, we'll go over here. Yeah. And then we're going to bomb them. Hey, have you thought about bombing some people over there? When you get, yeah, we're going to bomb them. And it was just like, this is brilliant. I only did it all in one take.
Ben's available for voice work, by the way.
Experience kills voiceover work.
Just let me know. I've got the microphone ready. I'm ready to go whenever you are. But I kind of love that. I love the fact that this was one guy, one vision, like pretty scrappy, but at the same time, really polished, really gorgeous, like taking advantage of the abilities of the X and the S to really, you know, do that lighting to make it. And it runs so smooth and it runs so just buttery at all times with up to 120 frames. I tried it on my S here on my 120 monitor, and I had it on 120 FPS, and it's even smoother. I mean, it feels good at 60, but doubling that, it's incredible. So I
had one main issue with this game. You couldn't go 180 degrees behind you.
Or do like a quick turn.
Yeah. To either bank up and come back on yourself, and there wasn't some sort of like turny flourish for that. Yeah. Or for like in Squadrons, something like that. That is the single issue with traversal I had with this game.
I think
And
if
combat.
I'm feeling generous, isn't that because it's a bird? Don't really see birds do the loot. It's not how their wings work or their
you
bodies
don't see
work.
birds with people on their backs either.
Doing that.
I'm sorry, show me the
At the same time,
lightning-powered birds, Ben.
It is a giant falcon, so that is based off of the anatomy of an existing creature.
A giant.
It's not a dragon.
Falcon.
It's not a whatever.
Hang
I
on.
think, to be honest, I liked the limitations of the handling. It lent it realism to me. It lent immersion to me. I see what you're saying from a gameplay perspective. It's frustrating, totally. But I found myself doing the breaks thing and then kind of repositioning with that quite easy and quite intuitive. And the combat never got so overwhelming that I couldn't handle it. And like, you know, I'm popping off the special moves and stuff, and I'm like, I've upgraded my gun a bunch. What blew my mind, right, playing this game is how almost every achievement is a rare one. It's like, has everybody downloaded this and no one played it? It's like, that's the only reason that everything's a rare achievement, because everything was under 10% of the player base having completed it almost. I was like, except for maybe the first 2 achievements.
A lot of them are less than 1%.
Really, really, really low, aren't they? So it's just that, and that's skewed numbers because it's on Game Pass, or because it was one of the few games at the launch of the console. Everyone downloaded it or bought it, and then nobody's played it. It's just like hilariously weird. So I think you should give it a go. I mean, we are split on this one. We are split on this one. Richard obviously did not enjoy it that much, and we should acknowledge that. But that's fair, man. That's good. I mean, that's why Game Pass is great, though, isn't it? You try games you wouldn't normally. Sorry.
There are things I like about it. It's just frustrating because the things that would improve it are potentially fairly simple. So that boost bar needs to be far longer than it is. And to be fair, I haven't got the best Falcon, because you can upgrade them, can't you, and get better ones and give them additional powers. So maybe towards the end game that becomes tolerable, but that's not great design, is it, if you've got to play the whole game to get to the good bit?
It's classes as well, isn't it? So you have Falconeers and Mercenaries and different class types. You can play it with dual abilities and stuff,
You're arguing there against literally every game that requires upgrades. Why have upgrades?
I'm not, because there are upgrades where the core control system feels satisfying. Control is an example of that. It feels like it's a decent setup from the beginning, but you complement that suite over time.
It's interesting.
It doesn't feel like things have been taken away from you. It feels like you're adding to your core repertoire.
I can't talk about it specifically, but I'm playing a game for review under embargo at the moment, which you would have thought would work in a certain way immediately, however, requires a bunch of upgrading for it to actually be playable and to actually position you, get a higher position than last place every single time. So it is a game design choice, those kinds of limitations, and they're not always great. I certainly find that way more egregious in this game I'm playing for review than I did in Falconeer. I felt way more capable in Falconeer than this other game. So yeah, you do see it, and I think it's an active choice, and sometimes it does hamstring the the fun to be had, especially when you're talking about trying to onboard a player into something that they may not be familiar with, because it's not the most common genre. There aren't hundreds of games out there like there are for first-person shooters. So for a lot of people, they might be trying this for the first time as a kind of that kind of game. So to restrict stuff, it's also weird because when you think about other games in this genre, you think about, you know, Ace Combats and Rogue Squadrons, you're dealing with a fighter plane, right? A physical, mechanical thing. So it's at that ability, you know, it works as you'd expect. So when you're dealing with a giant flying bird, your expectations, you know, you might need to change them, but what can you base them on? What previous reference point do you have for giant flying bird games? Not very many. Let's be honest. So yeah, I think it's a fascinatingly unique title, and the fact that it's on Game Pass is brilliant. And check it out. Like, it is, you know, if anything, having this kind of division between the three of us should make you even more interested, because it is a bit divisive, and therefore, you know, it's quite unique in its approach to a lot of its mechanics and its world and stuff. But yeah, for something developed by, what was the guy's name again?
Thomas Sala.
Thomas Sala, incredible work for one guy.
I got there first.
Like, seriously.
Yeah,
Incredible
absolutely
work.
phenomenal. I do highly recommend this game. It's not perfect, but considering the development team member, you know, absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend. As you say, it's on Game Pass. It's free. Give it a go.
Yeah, it is unbelievable considering how little, how few people worked on it. He didn't do all of it himself. I mean, someone
That'd be
else
some
done
outsourcing
music and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a phenomenal achievement for one man.
Cool. I think that brings us to the end of this installment of Gamepass Club. Did anybody want to talk about what we want to do in 2 weeks quickly? Now we've had a listener suggestion. We've had the one, and it comes up every time we do this, and it's been brought up a couple of times by this person, which is Subnautica. I wouldn't be against giving it a go, though I have played it a fair bit already. I don't know where you guys already sit on Subnautica.
I've played a good chunk of it already, and then I've cheesed all the achievements out of it now. So
there's literally no reason for you to want to play
No.
it. Saying, Richard.
So
Shocking.
I'm the only person that would legitimately want to play it. Okay, that's fine.
Well,
Um,
if we don't do Subnautica, we roll it back around to Rob. Rob's pick was the first pick. We've now each done a pick, if I remember rightly.
indeed.
So I believe it would be Rob's suggestions this time. If you have anything prepared, feel free. If not, off the top of your head, mate, go for it.
Yeah,
Right now,
this
5,
is,
4, 3, 2, 1. Suggest.
funnily enough, this is what I'm currently reviewing. Thanks to the glory of the Xbox website. Okay, let's have a little look. So having a couple of options rather than it just being the same stuff would be good. You know, a cop-out, you know, I don't want to do necessarily like AAA games like Fallen Order or Mass Effect Andromeda or Destiny 2, because that's really obvious stuff. You know, it would be nice to do something...
Did you tell me the other day you hadn't played Mass Effect Andromeda?
Yes, that is quite correct. I've not played Mass Effect Andromeda yet. Let's play Skyrim for Game Pass Club.
Oh.
Well, that was a happy noise.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
This is making some great radio right now while we try it.
Yeah, this is the thing. Anytime someone wants to
While
jump
you
in
have a
with
look at
any words would be great.
No, while you look at, I'm not going to help you with suggestions, but while you look at that, Richard, why don't you tell us about what you've been playing the last week or two?
News. One of us has a PlayStation 5 now.
Yay!
That's good. I got a digital edition from Game. Took a bit of doing to get that, so it's still at the point where stock is ridiculously hard to secure. So I signed up to, there's a Twitter account called PS5 Instant, I want to say, and they have this bot thing running on their YouTube channel, so it'll just constantly check for stock, right? And as soon as stock appears, air raid sirens go off, which they did during my work meetings. That was great. That was really, really great. But I got, yeah, exactly like that. Like while I was talking on a meeting as well, so it wasn't like I was muted.
Amazing.
So yeah, got that. So long story short, I now have it. I don't have many games for it because there aren't many. We talked earlier about the shortage of games this year. That I'm really feeling that with PlayStation 5 because it's not like there's a huge library on Game Pass to fall back on, and it doesn't feel like it's a natural extension of the, as with the Xbox platform, it feels like it's just carried on from where it left off, rather than feeling like a fresh start. So yeah, with the PS5, it does feel a bit limited at the minute. I haven't bought any games. I'm toing and froing between whether I want Demon Souls or not. One, because it's 70 quid. Two, I've already platinumed it on PS3. Don't know what to do about that, really. And even Spider-Man, I'm playing the old version, the PS4 version of Spider-Man at the minute, and thinking, this still looks really good. Do I really want to spend 70 quid for it to look slightly better? And the answer
that's how much they want
no.
for it, 70 quid.
Yeah, if you want it's 50 quid for Miles Morales, which is just the new stuff, and I think
50 quid for isn't that like 12 hours long? I was like, that's ridiculous. 50 quid.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, if you want the full package, it's 70 quid to upgrade the old Spider-Man 2. So I'm not going to do that. So as it stands,
what have you been playing? Yeah.
All I've got is the pack-in game Astro's Playroom, which is a really good showcase for the machine, I have to say. So 3D platformer. It's based around a series of themed levels, each of which is packed with PlayStation memorabilia. So you've got different levels that give you one set of levels will give you PS1 era stuff. It'll give you the console, controllers, memory cards, the PlayStation mouse. All of that is available to find in these levels. And it's really cool, that aspect of nostalgia, to go back and think when you get back to the central area in the game, it has all of these objects in place, and you can jump around them, interact with them, play on them. That's really fun. But the game itself is a brilliant showcase for the hardware. I'm not thinking so much the graphical hardware and the console itself, but the controller. I'd heard that it was a step up. It's really good. I was surprised by how good it is. So the rumble just feels brilliant. There's a bit in this game where you get a Gatling gun, and that feeling of holding the trigger in, and the trigger bounces back after every shot, like a real Gatling gun would. It's fantastic.
That is what I'm most excited about with PS5. I really want to try this controller. I really want to play a shooter and feel the different resistances for trigger pulls and like you said, bouncing back like recoil. That sounds insane. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's stuff like there's a gacha machine where you can get new items for the central hub area, and that feeling of pulling the trigger to pull down the one-arm bandit arm feels like it would, and then things come out and you catch them in this robotic hand and crush them, and because of the technology of these triggers, it does feel like you're crushing something. And just the haptic feedback of the different terrains that you go through. So there's bits where you're in a ball and you roll around and you roll over different terrain, like sort of broken concrete and rocky areas, through mud or over sand. All of it feels distinct through the controller, and you can hear it through the controller as well, because it's got a microphone, so you'll hear sand dusting up as you drift through it, and you feel it as well as you go through it. Really incredible technology.
That sounds amazing. That does sound really, really cool. So Astro, and then also you've been playing the weirdness that is Bugsnax.
Yeah, there's something. Have you played it yet?
I'm aware of it. I don't have it.
It's on PS4, isn't it? But it's on PS4, I think. But the PS5 version was free as part of PlayStation Plus, so that's how I'm playing it. And for anyone that hasn't seen this, the idea is that you end up on an island which is full of creatures that are both alive but also forms of food. So it might be a spider whose legs are made out of French fries, or like a worm that is also a carrot.
This sounds like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. Like,
I haven't seen that.
Anthropomorphized.
I love that Rob has seen Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, and yet the list of like good films that he's never seen is longer than you could get to the moon.
No, those
list.
films are supposed to be great, aren't they? It's the guys who did.
I mean, they're fine.
It's the guys who did the Lego movies, the
Yeah.
Spider-Man multiverse movie.
It's a great
They're
film.
fine.
There is an awful pun in it. There is an anthropomorphized leak in a boat, and they point and go, "There's a leak in the boat." You know, that is something they do, and the leak just goes "ah" and then runs away.
I can see why you
Love
like that film.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, that's weird in itself, right? That you've got these anthropomorphized food types, but the characters in the game, if they eat them, their limbs become them, and they want this to happen. Is the strangest thing. So it's basically like Pokemon. You might like this, Rob. So you go out and seek these creatures and try and find ways to catch them. So that might be scanning them and working out what the path of their travel is, putting a trap down on that path, go and hide, then the next time they come out, you trigger the trap. It's like a Ghostbuster sort of trap, right?
Okay.
That's at its most basic, and other things get more complex. There's like a cheeseburger creature that will
Feed me?
It will attack other creatures, or it's attracted to ketchup. So if you can get a ketchup plant and spread ketchup over another creature, it's difficult to catch. The cheeseburger one will headbutt it, and then it makes the other one easy to catch. Things like that.
Obviously,
But
I should have guessed that. Obvious.
it kind of
Sounds.
tells you.
This is like almost like body horror. This sounds really fucking
It is
like Cronenbergian.
It's horrific. It should be
Fly / The Thing. Like, what on earth?
It should. So the first thing that you're told to do is catch this little strawberry thing, by this guy, and he's like, I need you. I'm a bit tired. I need you to catch that and feed it to me. So you do, and his arm turns into a sequence of strawberries. And you're like, mate, what's happened to your arm? It's like, oh yeah, that's one of the side effects of Bugsnax. It's really good, isn't it?
Sounds very serious.
No, mate, your arm is strawberries.
In important news, we now have the name for the podcast, which is going to be episode 20, A Sequence of Strawberries, which is a fantastically weird sentence. So that's what this is going to be called. But okay, cool. I look forward to you actually like playing some games on the PlayStation 5 that are, I don't know, like I want the haptic feedback stuff. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about like shooters taking advantage of that. Stuff that's maybe specific to the console.
Black Ops Cold War is good for it, but I've already got that on Xbox. So yeah, I'm really stuck for things to buy at the minute. I might pull the trigger on Demon Souls because it does really look next gen. But it doesn't sit well, does it? 70 quid for a game I've already done. And there's not.
Yeah, and like you, I'd be buying. You know, like you, I want the digital edition as well. But then you are, of course, stuck because you have to buy games at the digital store price, which are unlikely to come down for some time, are they? No. So, right, Rob, let's wrap this up with your shortlist. Come on, we gave you loads of time there. He's got 4 games from Game Pass. Is interesting. Got the number 4 on his hand. Let's hear them. So, let's discuss. Quick.
Rage 2, Jurassic World Evolution, Carrion, or Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Oh,
wow! They're all games I've caned, but okay.
How?
Every single one of them I've played. I put a bunch of time into all of those. That's interesting. That but no, okay. Some diversity there.
Yeah, I tried.
Carrion,
What's your?
We've pretty much all caned Carrion, haven't we? Because it was in our Game of the Year.
I thought we had.
I have not touched it. Okay, that's fine.
Well, we did that for Game of the Year, so let's cross off Carrion. Right, let's narrow it down. Rage 2, Jurassic World, or Bloodstained. So, Richard, any sort of particular
clear
vibes?
front runner is Bloodstained. So I love Castlevania.
You not played it?
A bit, yeah, but not enough. So I love Castlevania games. I've played probably a couple of hours of that.
It's really good,
and I was intending to go back to it anyway. So yeah, would not be.
I think I enjoyed Rage 2 a lot, but it is like pretty generic. Like I'm not even sure what there is to talk about there. It's like open world shooter. It's solid. Guns feel good. The powers feel good. It looks good, but it also doesn't really do anything new. Like I did put a good 15 hours into that, and for bouncing off and stuff. But no, I enjoyed my time, and it's worth playing on Game Pass. But I'm not sure it's a very unique experience. Jurassic World is a really interesting shout, though. I personally, I would go for Planet Coaster, which is actually X and S enhanced and made by the same guys, and a much better park simulator than Jurassic World.
But there are no dinosaurs.
Yeah, but even then, you kind of like with games like that, you almost obfuscate away from what it is you're doing. It's spreadsheet management, right?
But dinosaurs.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you're not going to win me over on this one.
Yeah, so Jurassic World Evolution, I actually have all the DLC for as well. I really enjoy it, and it's like there is some really good stuff in there connecting to the original movies and stuff, and all of that. Planet Coaster is a much better example of the genre, but Jurassic World is a lot of fun. I've enjoyed both, but I think going back to Bloodstain for me as well would be good. It is I think a good example. It's very interesting for your choice there, Rob, because it's really old school, and it's one of those games that you will take more away from if you have that history with those types of games. So I don't know if you do or not. No, okay. I'd be curious.
I don't know if you take more away from it. I mean, it scratches that nostalgia itch, but it's still good in its own right.
But it speaks that language, and it is a kind of quite a specific language, the Castlevania language.
I think we're settling onto a clear front runner here, to be honest.
Yeah. I'll give Bloodstone a go again.
Yeah.
Go back, might start it again or something maybe. Go from the beginning. I think I put like 5 or 6 hours, maybe a bit more. It was back when Game Pass wasn't as fully featured. Yeah, there wasn't as many kind of interesting games on it when that came out. It was a good while ago now that Bloodstained came out. But yeah, I'm up for that. Bloodstained.
Excellent.
Like, guys, though, do bear in mind, if you put some suggestions forward, that everybody doesn't just go like, no chance in hell, like we just tried this up north. But we will at least discuss them, so do suggest.
I'll probably give it a go at some point.
To be fair, Subnautica is a good suggestion.
Yeah.
So don't rag on it. That was a good idea. It's just unfortunate that we pretty much all had to go.
2 out of the 3 of us who would be doing this have played it significantly already. I have not.
You could check our gamer tags and stuff. See what games we've played.
Yeah. So Bloodstained Rich of the Night for 2 weeks from now. We'll all get in there and have a little play around and discuss that in more depth. Like we had a really good discussion on Falconeer today. That was a good episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I hope you guys, Richard and Rob, I hope you've had a nice time. And I hope the listeners and viewers have also had a nice time with Experience Kills episode 20. You can find me on Twitter at DIYE, by Richard at Conan. You can find Rob at Homeless Mr. Gibbs. The collective of Experience Kills can be found at Experience Kills. Please give us a like and subscribe on YouTube, and while you're there, hit the bell icon and turn on notifications so you know when the latest videos come out, of which there are many at the minute. Actually, we've put up a bunch in the last week or so, and there's much more coming. Games are kicking off again, and I'm getting a gaming rig, and I'm going to be doing some streaming and playing more PC games as well. So just expect more content. Rob's got a new idea in the pipeline that we hope to be testing out quite soon as well. He also did. I've got to give a shout out to Rob here. This was an impressive video. He did a nearly hour-long teardown of his Xbox One X Scorpio edition so that he could replace the thermal paste on the processor. And just to give you guys all an update, because he left it as a big cliffhanger at the end of this video, the console did work.
There would not have been a video if the console didn't.
Please check out that video. He recorded his audio live while doing that, which is not an easy feat when a video is nearly an hour long. So well done on that one, Rob. It's different content for us. It's really cool, and I'm really glad you did it. So yeah, we've got lots more reviews coming. Like and subscribe. Remember, there is an audio version of these videos available from anywhere a good podcast can be found, including your smart home devices. So literally, you can listen to us. I'm not going to say it because it's right there in the shot, and I don't want to set it off. So yeah, we're everywhere. We're on everything. Enjoy Experience Kills. We'll be back soon with much more. So until then, have a good day, evening, night, morning. Bye.
Ta-ta for now.